Hello and welcome into today's edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. My name is Kevin Hicks and I am your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI, and I am so grateful to be joining you on this beautiful Monday afternoon after a messy yet satisfying Arizona State victory. That's the best way I can put it. The victory was not seamless, it was not without error. There were several big plays on offense that got negated by penalties and operational errors, but the Sun Devils managed, and the game was not as close as the score indicated. The game was never in doubt, and the Sun Devils are now heading to Mississippi State, to Starkville, to face the Bulldogs, a rebuilding SEC school, and they very well could be inside of the top 10 of the AP poll once it comes out tomorrow morning. And I am excited to be covering the first road game as your lead beat writer for ASU on SI. And I could not do without you before we get into today's episode. Thank you so much for your support each and every day. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. The meat and bones of it is going to revolve around Kenny Dillingham's weekly Monday press conference that he has at Mountain America Stadium. I was there firsthand. Video content and a breakdown of what he said will be available on ASU on SI in short order. But let's get started. So some of the overarching themes that I believe I picked up on during it was close to 25 minutes of talking with Coach, was that they are not sure about the players that are injured, the status of the players that are injured for next week quite yet. Dillingham said that he will get the results for their injury statuses tonight. That would be Max Ihenekor, Jalen Moss, and Justin Watley specifically. Those would be the three players that are under the most question. And he said that will coincide with the finalization of the game plan for the Sun Devils tomorrow or tonight ahead of the Saturday game. So we're not 100% sure about what's going to happen with those players quite yet, but we shall see by tonight, it sounds like. So by the time this recording gets out tomorrow morning, we shall know. Well, we might not know, but the staff will know who's likely to play, who's not likely to play, and everything in between on that. So second thing I wanted to touch upon was Dillingham talking about the early season woes of specific teams. And I wouldn't say that it was a woe for the Sun Devils. I personally gave the Sun Devils a C+ grade for the game, which isn't a disaster, nowhere near a disaster. It wasn't great, but there were things that they showed. There was tangible production. There was players that stepped up, that needed to step up enough in a strong enough capacity to believe that they will pick things up in the coming weeks ahead of week 1 of Big 12 play on September 20th against the Baylor Bears. But Dillingham mentioned last season, Oregon, people forget, they were the number 1 team in the nation virtually the entire way through the loss in the Rose Bowl to Ohio State. They were locked in a one-possession battle with Idaho in the fourth quarter of a game to begin last season. And then they rattled off 11 wins in a row after that, I believe. And they were in position to play for a national title before the Rose Bowl loss to Ohio State. Notre Dame struggled last year at the start of the season. They lost a game early in the season, and they were national runners-up. The early season results don't define who you are. And Dillingham, quote-unquote, said it's about solidifying what you want to be good at and doubling down. And that's exactly what those teams did last season, and I believe the Sun Devils will do that this season. There's just too much talent on the roster. They're just too well coached. They possess two of the best players in all of college football in Jordan Tyson and Sam Leavitt. That is a certainty. That's not even up for debate. But the game against NAU obviously created pause amongst some of the fan base, and rightfully so. But I just believe that the looking forward instead of looking back is the best way to approach things from me personally. And I think that Mississippi State will serve as a get right game for the Sun Devils. We shall see what happens on Saturday, but that is where I am at right now. And there were a couple of other things that I wanted to touch upon before today's episode concluded. I wanted to talk about his comments on Jaron Hamilton. So, Damon Allred of Arizona Sports asked Dillingham if the Hamilton not playing a single snap in the game was related to the flow of the game or it was a planned thing. And Dillingham pretty much said that it was a flow of the game decision, that once Jalen Moss came out of the game and didn't return, that it threw a bunch of wrinkles into what they wanted to do as well. Obviously, Jalen Moss and Jaron Hamilton are different players, but once Jalen Moss went out, I feel like they kind of did a complete 360 on the approach to the game. So I guess it makes sense that Jaron Hamilton didn't see any snaps, but it didn't sound too promising in terms of him getting more snaps on Saturday either. I can't speak on that 100% with 100% certainty, but I would not be surprised if he plays sparingly again on Saturday, and that is very, very surprising to me because he performed so well during spring during spring camp and especially fall camp. He really came on over the last month, and I believe that he has the second highest ceiling on the roster in terms of the receivers on the roster. So we shall see what happens against Mississippi State on Saturday, but Hamilton is in a good spot still. I believe that he will have his moment this season. We'll just have to find out when. And to close out today's episode, I wanted to talk about the road trip question. The last question of the day was about how the Sun Devils have changed their approach to making road trips in 2025. It's very, very different now, as Coach Dillingham has alluded to, since they're playing in a lot of small towns on the road. Now they're playing in places such as Lubbock, Texas, Manhattan, Kansas. Not many major cities like they did in the Pac-12 when they traveled to Los Angeles, when they traveled to Seattle, when they traveled to even Tucson. I mean, they're still traveling to Tucson, but there's a big adjustment period. The Coach Dillingham talked about that. When you're in Seattle, it's easy. Everything's accessible. There's good food everywhere. There's options for players to all be satisfied. When you're traveling to Lubbock, Texas, there's a chance that 10 players on your roster get food poisoning, like he said. He said that was the first time he's ever opened up about that there were multiple players that got sick because of the food that was available to them at Texas Tech in the vicinity of the stadium. And that's a fascinating wrinkle. That really is interesting when you think about it. The Sun Devils have to find ways to satisfy 160 people between the players, the coaches, and all the staff that travel. It's a very fascinating thing to think about and discuss. And let's see. The Sun Devils are set to stay about an hour and 15 minutes away from the Mississippi State Stadium as well. So that is something to keep in mind. And we are just days away from Game 2 of the season kicking off, just about 5 days away as of this recording. And I am so grateful for each and every one of you. And I'm so excited to cover that game for the likely top 10 Arizona State Sun Devils next game in action. And thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you tomorrow.